artists to do commissions through those Freelancer, Fiverr Pro, all those sort of outlets there, which you can do anywhere, anytime, and you can do it in between your other stuff. I mean, how do you find that works in to keep you connected to the real world or the world outside of your studio, and get you drawing and interacting and challenging yourself creatively with those sort of briefs?
Geez. How do I answer that? I don't know.
Okay, I can change the question if you want.
I don't know.
So do you use pencils?
Yeah. Yes, I'm a pencil squeezer. Look, there was never any plan, but I knew the mortgage had to go. And I figured out that the illustrators that survive are the ones that can live cheaply and simply. And if you can survive and move out of the city, you know, and if you can live in a regional area, and you don't need a big fancy car and all that kind of stuff, I got a pretty nice car. Write it on the tax. Kellie writes it on the tax.
The tax man will work for you.
Yeah. Now you just got to find a way of getting to the drawing board every day, and I still struggle to do that. There's either kids or there's some, you know, pressing issue. But as long as you're focused on producing, you know, some more pages, do it as regularly as you can, try and stay healthy. Then, you know,
moving to the mountains is a good way to stay healthy.
Things will pile up. Yeah. The pages will pile up eventually. And really that's, to me, that's your goal as an artist, is to be a productive one. And if you can produce, then you're already successful, because you're already ahead of the game as far as most people falling into the category of talking about being an artist and actually being one. So you're already, you know, being an artist because you're doing it. So I'm a bit stupid. I'm not smart enough to write business plans, but I always knew I wanted to be an artist. And after, you know, a number of years, several decades, I realised, well, you know, I am. And I've got a back, you know, I own my catalogue of work. And that's kind of nice. And I'm still producing. I haven't, you know, ended up in traction. It's going to happen one day. I got a massage the other day. It was great. Massages are good. Get a massage. Hey, Matt?
Traction. Yep. That's what I hope all of your work has in the market. Is that what you're talking about?
What is market?
Market? Do you know, I'm actually going to go back to the
you mean the markets?
The markets.
The road.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go back to that line that you said about being stupid. I don't actually think, I think you are far from it. And, you know, we look at like the work of Edward de Bono in lateral thinking and things like that. And we just have intelligence in different areas. And each of us uses whatever area we're smartest in order to survive and evolve and move forward. And it may be, yours may be different to Darren's, which may be different to everyone else's. But each and every one of you up here is incredibly successful at what you do. And it just lends power to the phrase, sometimes, you know, all roads lead to Rome.
The bit Jay said that I completely agree with that is, if you don't make it, it doesn't exist.
True.
And I had, my mother is one of those classic mothers that looks at a piece of art on the wall and says, oh, I could do that. And I just say, well, yeah, but Mum, you didn't do that. And that's why, because you haven't done it, only one exists. And that's why that person can charge 10 grand for that painting, because they bothered to do that. And so I think it's the people who, and you're right, if when you bother, and I say this to my son actually, and all the time, bother is the only word I try to drum into any, when I talk to a lot of schools and stuff, and the kids upstairs this morning, I said, you know, bother to finish it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make it, it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, you can't sell it, and suddenly it stops.
That's my unique selling point in relationships as well, bother.
Yeah, same thing.
Constantly, I will bother you. Yeah, that's, similar.
It's about making product. Making product is 100% the answer. And I think at the end of the day, I made the mistake when I wrote my first science fiction novel. I finished it and I thought, now I'm going to sit down and read a book. So I went and grabbed one of Isaac Asimov. and I read one of his books. And after I finished it, I'm crying because my book sucked so much. By comparison, I was like, oh, I'm the worst writer in the world. And then I realised I should have bought his first book and read it.
Yeah.
You know, instead of his 10th.
Speaking of which, books are for sale here.
It's one of those things. I actually forgot them yesterday.
Oh, okay.
As you do when you're trying to sell things. But it's I think that it's that grind, that one page a day. There's a lot of people say, I would love to write a comic, I would like to write a book. It's like, there's 300 days in a year. Just churn out a picture. How many cells do you say? That's 70.
I do 3 cells a day if I feel like it.
Yeah, that's right. So if you did 1 cell a day every year, you've got a comic book.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not actually that much of a commitment if you go to the drawing board, which is amusing. I've never really thought about that. What you said before, mate, resounded with me though. You know that moment where you have to concede that that's what you are? You see a comic book guy now and you're like, yeah, I guess I'm, and it feels stupid to say that, particularly out in the mountains here, because when I was picking age out from school, you got this, all the farmers and tradies and mechanics and they're all in the, what do you do? I'm a comic book writer. And they look at you like you've got no chest hair. So that's, yeah. And they don't know what to ask you either. It's this very awkward, still conversation, like you've just told them you're a ventriloquist or something. But it's amusing. Did you find that when you're talking to people that you don't know how to say that? Did you say, I just write? Or something like that?
I don't talk to people.
I don't get out of the studio.
That's the thing, like I don't have a business plan as such. I went into this based on, there wasn't a Blue Mountains Panther merchandise, there wasn't Drop Bear stuff. I wanted it, and I wanted it for me, but then when I discovered other people wanted it too, I'm not necessarily in it to make squillions of dollars, although I am going to talk to you about writing my car off on my tax. Yeah, think of it. It's just a 2002 Mitsubishi. But the thing is that I'm doing this for fun, and I'm having heaps of fun with it, and I've met some incredible people working markets. I've met some incredible people in the shops that sell my stuff. But online as well, like Facebook and Instagram, they're free tools, and they're the best advertising tools as well. I've had commission work come through just on that. I think, well, actually my partner's wearing one of the t-shirts I commissioned for him at the moment. But
Did you get a deal?
Let's see it. Come on.
he's a wrestler by trade, but that's that's some of my work. But
How do you go at school pickup?
we're not bleeding. Yeah, ultimately, I said to him, I'm going to do this as long as it's fun. You know, that's my mission. And
the comics as well?
Well, but yeah, as long as it's fun. And I think I'm, like, my demographic is just Blue Mountains at the moment. It's a Blue Mountains audience, and it's been fantastic. If I branch out, so be it. But yeah, if I do 3 cells a day, rad. If I've got a deadline like Tim gave me, I might do a page a day and then be like at the end of it. But it's still just as rewarding, but it's fun. If you can draw every day, it's great. I mean, I've got a home office, but I rarely use it. I drew this comic book in my lounge chair with a stable table. Like,
How
that
good are
was my
stable
desk.
tables?
I love stable tables. But yeah, it was just, I do storyboard for my comic books, and then I take photographs as facial references and just go from that. And it's more of a nice, relaxing journey for me, as opposed to, yeah, I'm up against an editor and I've got this and I've got that. It's all down to me. Self-publishing is great because the onus is on me, and I'm doing it for fun. When it starts like, okay, I'm going to do it for you guys, yeah, sure, it might get a bit stressful, but ultimately it's really rewarding speaking to people who enjoy my comics.
I love that your comics are Blue Mountain centric, and
We're pretty eccentric people, I feel like, too.
yeah, true, linguistically very close. I think that the great thing about everyone up here is you've each found a separate niche in which to be successful based on your own passion, your own love, or your own circumstances.
Yeah.
So let's talk next about the difference between physical product and digital product and the conversion of the two and what that's done for your business.
Okay then, so well, I draw all of mine on a computer, but these aren't available as digital comic books. I still like my old school book, something that I can hold, something that I can smell too. I don't know, I just love the smell of freshly printed stuff.
Take notes.
It's a bit crazy.
Take notes.
But I mean, really, when it comes to the digital era, for me, I've just utilized it for marketing. Like when I set up my own hashtag, I was like, is this how you do it? I'm not entirely sure. Like, I'm very old school when it comes to this sort of stuff. I think these guys have probably got a little bit more to say about an online presence though than me.
I don't have anything to say about that. I don't know anything about it.
So is your product available digitally?
Oh, mine isn't, no.
No.
You can buy them online and I will send you a physical
copy.
book.
Yay, we love physical books. You do. Do I? I don't sell anything. No. I'm terrible. I can't even sell myself. I'm notorious for coming to these things and giving a really bleak overview of everything, and everyone leaves depressed, wondering why they came here. And I'm just like, what's the problem? So I'm the worst self-broker available. However, the serious side is I've done lots of work, and I'm still doing work. So the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. So as long as my neck holds out, I'll be churning out the work, of which is circulating somewhere. There's a copy of Eek. That young man's got one on his chair, if anyone would like to have a look at that. There's a couple of phantoms kicking around, so that's the work.
That's such a Zane way to put it. Never mind, anyway. It's a phantom joke.
As I mentioned briefly before, I do a lot of travel to Indonesia for comics because I didn't realise they were a bit like Japan in a comic sense, and because I can talk to people, I sell comics. But because of the weather over there and the wet season and the poverty and such, no one can really afford to buy that many hard copies because they've got nowhere to keep them either.
Is that why it's in plastic?
No, that's because the comic people are very treasure-like. I have black and white journals for the Japanese because they just read them and chuck them. Manga is very disposable.
Yeah.
So that was for the Japanese market. But I'm a bit of a full-colour comic snob because I grew up on Phantom Talent and Direction. Love Phantom. That's why it's KIT Comics.
Ah.
Yeah. And so,
Clever.
but when it comes to Indonesia, I find my ebook market is because they can download them to their phone and keep them dry, keep them safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I sell a lot of ebooks in Indonesia only. Most people like that tactile. I find people like to touch them, and you see the old smell. It's kind of creepy when they open and go. And you're like, just love the comic, don't love the comic. You know, it's too much.
Yeah, it's a Peter Slipper moment. Yeah. Google it when you're at home. So do we have any questions from you guys? Feel free.
Hang on, I feel like I'm in the guy run down with the mic like in the movies.
I was just the first time we've actually had a panelist as a mic runner ever in the last 10 years we've been doing
That's how
this.
I've done it. I can put that on my resume.
My name's Jeff.
I was just going to ask.
So, sorry, I know you've got a really important question. So, look, Darren,
Do you like a
look,
ball boy? Do I do this?
no, that's more like two ball boys. Anyway, so the first rule of mic runner school is never let them hold the microphone.
Oh, right. I saw Jerry Springer. They didn't do that either. No, let me know.
See, and then you've opened yourself up to this is good apprenticeship.
Excuse me. Is it on? I was just going to ask, Jace, do you do your drawings for Phantom in ink, or do you do it on a computer?
Because the lines will really...
Second part.
I was just going to say the lines look so perfect. It's hard for me to imagine how that works. So.
Yeah.
Yes, ink.
Like tennis now.
Actually, tennis.
Thanks.
Yay. All right. If we're gonna, do we have more? Oh, jeez. No, it's all right. So what I'll do. Great question. Can you just sign it to me from here? No. Do you guys want to use this?
We can do that.
They've taped it down. They've taped it down. All right. All right, kid. I'll show you how it's done.
Can I video it?
Walking. Hi, what's your name? Violet. This is Violet.
So I was wondering, having a business plan, does that make your comics more effective in reaching people?
I wish.
That's a really great question.
I have no idea.
I
Yeah.
can't hear you. Step up to the mic. No, I'm just being silly.
Do your comics sell more because you've got a business plan?
Do you comics sell more because you have a business plan?
No, it's more of a manipulation of the human condition exercise. People who've got cash and are dumb, you can sort of take it from them carefully if you're smart. That's what business planning is, I think. It's swindling people into thinking they want something they may not want.
I got an answer.
Is that your answer? Are you,
Yeah,
done?
that'll do.
Are you good with that? So I started this in 1989, and in 1992 I met a guy who started publishing comics. You know, a mate. It was a bit of a community in the early 90s in Sydney of comic publishers. There was a mini renaissance that happened. It was us, Issue 1 Comics, Platinum Grit. We'd all get together at the pub after, you know, Oz Comic Con and all be mates, right? But the guy that had the business plan, right, was the guy that walked into the room and got the money from the government to get the grant to do more comics, and we were all like, damn, that guy's, he's got his shit together. He's got a business plan and a grant, and that guy's not doing it anymore. And that was 20 years ago. And so, you know,
You can't be money driven.
at the time I thought, you know, I really should get my act together. I really should be more business-like. But after, you know, a lot of years, I realised, you know, I'm an artist, not a businessman. If I was a businessman, I'd open a fruit shop and actually make some money, you know, serious money, and have free food. So, you know, it's a matter of what are your priorities: to get to the drawing board that day and do some more artwork, or sit and do a business plan. Boring. You know what I mean?
That's a shit answer.
I should add, when I was at uni, I studied business administration and business planning, which is kind of putting my study to good use. Yeah, when your dad's a bank manager, you just do what he tells you to.
And,
Something about money, son, study money.
Okay,
and
thanks.
for everyone listening, that's bank with a V. All right,
Good question. Excellent
and business planning for your fun endeavour?
I have a full-time job, but it's in an art gallery up in Katoomba, so I tend to still be in a creative field, but at the cultural centre, yeah. And I don't have a business plan. As I said, I'm doing this for fun. That's my plan, is to just keep having fun. It's great that it does make some cash. It is, it's a fun plan. I'm investing in my smile. But yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this as long as I'm having fun. And as I said, yeah, it is great if it makes some cash. I'm intrigued and I'm excited about how much traction they're getting though, because it's like, all right, it's not just me who wants to read comic books about the Blue Mountains, who wants to read comic books about our monsters, who wants a Yowie t-shirt. I'm not alone. There are other freaks out there.
I suppose before you do a business plan, it's important to work out what you want out of your comics.
Yeah.
Because that'll dictate how you run your business and what you do. Because if you go, hey, this is fun, I really enjoy it, how can I make this a side hustle? Is very different to going, I want to pay off 3 houses and live in Bali. You know?
I live with my parents.
One of the biggest things, to be quite serious.
Dad looks really impressed with that.
One of the biggest things to think about, you can't fix a bad script in post-production. So good planning when you're going into it. If you're going to make something that you don't think anyone will buy, then obviously you wouldn't make it. But I draw because I love it. You know, don't get me wrong. I've spent a lot of time and I'm happy to eat the lesser brand noodles so I can live the life that I want to live. And unlike these guys, I work from home every day. And you said something before that resounded with me. I don't see enough people because I'm at home all the time. So conventions is one of those lovely environments where you can actually talk to people of all ages and remind yourself how cabin crazy you're going some days. And so I do love, this is the bit that I enjoy, because most of the time, and my beloved partner, God love her, she comes home from work, and I'm so desperate for human contact that she's like, stop badgering me. I'm like, okay, sure. You know, so it's a very quiet existence some days, and some days the time goes, and other days the time goes. But you could go all day and not say a word, and then all of a sudden you realise you've been quiet for 17 hours, and I'll just finish this before I go to bed. 6 hours later, just this. Okay, I'm done. You know, but it's quiet and it's private most of the time. So it's not it's sort of social here, because it feels like all the comic people are really social. Just that we're also desperately lonely in our own homes. We love talking.
I don't know what he's talking about. I've got 3 kids. I don't get any peace. There's no quiet.
Are they your kids?
Yeah, I think so. They don't look anything like me, but yeah.
Okay, that was it. All
Oh,
right.
hang on, wait. I do have one thing to say about the money thing, because I do tend to go a bit dark on the money stuff. But one thing that I realised when I was, out of the agency thing and basically living exclusively off Phantom at the moment, was that every dollar that you earn in comics kind of is worth like $3 normal, because it just feels so good to actually draw an income from what you love to do. So you get, they're comic dollars. They're special. Yeah, they make you feel good.
Does Coles accept comic dollars like that?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Or maybe with comic dollars, you could buy the Coles miniatures that are coming out. Because they're all right, doesn't matter. Any other questions? Oh, hang on.
Quick question from the back. I can shout, it's all right. Do you write the storyline first, or do you do the kind of graphic stuff first?
Go down the line for this one. I tend to think of the story. Yeah, I've got a sense of a beginning, a middle, and an end. Then I storyboard and I flesh it out a little bit more. I think I'm actually I'm not a very good writer. Like, there aren't that many words in my comic. I'm a really good illustrator.
No. A picture is worth 1,000 words.
Well, there you go.
And you have 73 panels, that's 73,000 words.
Okay.
Big read.
But yeah, when I'm drawing, my brain goes, and the story flushes out even more. From the storyboard, I take photographic references of people's expressions, like, drop bear, yowie, and then I start actually doing that. My little graphic designer brain clicks in though and goes, all right, what font's gonna look great for this text? And then my layout kicks off from that. But ultimately, yeah, tiny idea, start sketching it, the idea just blows up. And I actually found with my second comic book too, my story changed midway. Completely. There was a completely different ending that when I am rich and famous, I'll tell people about, but no, I'm not yet.
I'm an advocate of no rules, so get the story out however it comes out. Marvel method is rough plot and then draw and then script.
I thought that was Marvel method was what would Stan do.
Well, yeah. What did Stan do, or more specifically?
No, he's like Elvis.
We don't know what Stan did. No, anyway, either or either, both work. Whatever gets you through the night.
Get it done.
I have a tendency to write the first. You would say it's a 30-page comic. I have a tendency to. I sort of have an idea of where the story's going to go, but I'll storyboard the first 15 pages maybe, and then I already know where it's going to finish, and then I'll reverse engineer it, because when things happen on the turn, I try not to waste the turn in the book. I'm very mindful that you only get 15 moments, so I try and have my scenes conclude on the bottom right-hand cell, so that things will happen in that moment. So to make sure, if I'm going to have a glitch in my turn, I don't want my turns towards the end of the comic to be compromised. So I'll storyboard the first bit, then storyboard back to the center, so if there's a glitch, it'll happen in the middle where it won't affect the read. So I do think about it, but I don't have too much into it. It's more about, again, if you read it and someone gets to the end and they don't hate it, I guess that's a success, isn't it? You just want them to not tell other people it's rubbish. If they can forget about it or compliment it, hey, great.
Unless it's second-hand manga.
Second-hand mango, that's right.
Can I just really add to that? Just a small thing with both of these. Something that I maybe based the storyline around initially was there were images in my head that I knew I had to draw. There was one cell or something that I'm like, this is, for want of a better term, the money shot. This is the one that I want, and you can kind of base the story around that. So even before maybe even the full story, I knew certain images that I wanted to draw.
And that's movie storyboarding at its very best.
Sorry?
Movie storyboarding.
Yeah.
Lip reading Darren.
For anyone who's seen the like the Matrix special features and stuff, all the storyboarding they did for the Matrix, there was key shots. They were like, we need that angle on that gun in that moment, like the Trinity shot and all that stuff. And so yeah, that's why I love Robert Rodriguez. He's a storyboarding demigod, and you know, not love, but you know, it's the thing. Romantic.
Love you, Safeway.
He loves him.
I love it.
All right, so just going back to what you said, Darren, about those moments every time you turn the page, do you also think about the staple reveal in the centre?
Only in a pin-up sense.
Only in a pin-up sense. Just position that really carefully.
Not available in the digital edition, obviously.
No, it scratches your screen. You draw in staples just to annoy people. And then sell a special Monsters, Myths and Legends staple remover.
I think splash pages too. A lot of people don't.
Splash pages, yeah.
Yeah, I think I love a splash page.
So let's talk about the evolution, because this is just an idea that I had right now. It's free for you. Let's talk about, because we talked about the touchy-feely part of comics and how much we love them. Let's talk about the importance of paper stock and the importance of the quality of print to share your story and get your story out there. And if you're going for something like an old school web press sort of comic, have you thought about having like a 4D comic and putting sense in with the page? So as you flip the page, you get not only that moment, but a
Who wants to
as
smell
well.
a yowie?
Scratch and sniff comics? Is that
Yeah, yeah. There's a Doug Anthony All-Stars reference in that, but I'm going to leave it.
He's a comic guy, one of those dudes.
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah, Tim.
Is he well? How's he going?
I don't know. He doesn't answer my calls anymore. But, and he's had me bumped back to 500 metres now, but that's all right. Any other questions? Violet. All right. Go team. All right, here we go. Next one.
When a person starts out doing comics and that, doing a course or like getting quality artwork done, would that be better for starting off, or just starting the comic without anything, just going for it?
I gotta go for it.
I went for it. Well, I mean, ultimately my comics came about. I mean, I did do a fine arts course when I left high school,
I love
and
that.
as a
I
graphic
totally
designer.
went for it, but I've also got a fine arts degree. And I reported the Archibald Prize.
It might have assisted in things, but ultimately, I don't know the first thing about storyboarding or writing. I know how to doodle. I'm really cool, please buy my stuff. But ultimately it's one of those things that I am a lot more casual about this than these guys. I don't, as I said, I live with my parents, but I don't have to pay the mortgage with this stuff. But just go for it. It's supposed to be fun. Comics are enjoyable. We're making them for other people's enjoyment. But if it's something that you really want to do, just do it. I mean, the Blue Mountains is great for that. We've got so many creative people. Even if you just hop online and go, hey guys, how do I go about storyboarding? You'll get 50 people, probably in the same neighborhood as you, going, come and have a cup of coffee, let's chat. And I got a lot of help from people starting, like when I started the first one. My boss used to be an editor, and she was like, this is how you go about laying stuff out. Carl's an excellent writer. He was like, this is how you go about laying out sentence, and sentence structure. And I was like, I know how to draw drop it. Okay, thanks for your help, guys.
So, as a pro wrestler, is your name Punctuation?
I'm going to use that.
Using it.
Come to my masterclass at 2 o'clock, and then do it.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to, I think the hardest part about making any product that's going to have length is consistency. You need to be able to draw any character, 3 lines or 25 lines in every angle. So it's just a practice exercise. So I would even say start, because if you look at things like South Park versus Simpsons versus Family Guy, there's a lot of different kinds of popular animation, so it doesn't have to be necessarily complex, but it's more about being able to draw that in all those different ways. So I think it's just a practice exercise. Most of my practice was done on detention at high school. And I'm not even joking. And if digital art, and you've got so much opportunity, if you want to do it now, and I wish the technology existed then that exists now, and I probably would have done more detention, but I would have at least been making products. And it's a bit more forgiving, because gone are the days where you tragically put that bad line down, you can't take off the paper, and you ruin a complete drawing, and you're like, oh God, undo. You know, it's kind of, it's like, it's first class drawing, and it's very, I still draw things hydraulically all the time, but when you're digitally colouring, you can cover all your mistakes. It's almost to the point where there's no mistakes, which in some ways it's not as, what's the word I want?
So mistakes
less humility in it.
Yeah. So you're saying mistakes are deliberate?
Well, sometimes
are they still called mistakes if they're deliberate?
If you undo, how many times? Maybe there's an undo count on a comic. That'd be nice.
Yeah, they normally call it the barcode at the end. So we've only got a few moments left together. So how about we just give final thoughts?
Your second comic can only be better than your first comic once you've made the first comic. So it's not Shakespeare, just jump in and have a crack at it. Everybody, okay?
Actually, Shakespeare did just jump in and have a crack at it, incidentally.
Disregard Shakespeare, bad example.
Be like an Olympic diver, just jump in and have a crack.
Go nuts. Come in.
Jace, come on.
Saving it up for the masterclass, man.
Okay, so
That's what you get.
Yeah. If you want more pearls of wisdom from Jace, don't ask him about money, but
comic dollars.
Comic dollars. Yep. Are they the ones that you draw yourself? Like Monopoly money, except cooler.
Yes. And my comic checkbook.
Yes. Oh, just like the sheets. Okay, next.
Basically, if you... I've always loved comics, and this has just been a really fun little project for me. Sit down every night, draw something. Even if it's like your foot. I love drawing my hand, and you start learning about different bits and pieces. And then you start growing a style, and as long as it's enjoyable, as long as you're having fun, come up with something, copy Spider-Man over and over again, copy Batman over and over again. Then you start learning these different processes. It's so much fun. But yeah, if it's not fun, don't do it. If it is fun, do it all the time. Just seriously, whenever you got a spare minute, draw. It's fantastic.
All right, life lessons with comic creators. Join us for our next panel, where we talk about the differounces between 2-minute noodles. Yeah, round of applause for Darren, Jason, and Kellie. Yep.
Then I've got my books.
Yeah,
sorry, they're my personal copies. The Phantom's very stingy. He doesn't send them out.
Oh, thanks.
Well, the hard part is you'd know exactly where he is because the return address on the back. Yeah, Skullcave, yeah. What's the postcode? You don't need to know.
That's right.
All right, thank you so much. What a great hour to spend with each other.